Morning everybody, happy Friday. As you can probably see, I'm coming to you from a little bit of a different location. And well, for me, it's actually Wednesday. So just filming this a little earlier and saying happy Friday because it's probably when it's gonna actually be uploaded. Anyway, without further ado, we're here today in a room that kept me from uploading videos for you guys for like 2 weeks. And that room is my newly refinished dining room. Anyway, the whole reason that we're in here instead of in my office where we'd normally be is because this room has a nice newly refinished hardwood floor. And my office is carpet. And well, the project we're gonna be working on today requires no carpet and requires hardwood floor. And the reason for that is because this computer right here that I have next to me is a iBuyPower gaming PC that has a shattered tempered glass side panel. And so the job that we're doing today is cleaning that out. And as a result, we will probably end up making a little bit of a mess on the floor. And it's easier to sweep glass off of wood than it is to dig it out of carpet. So that's why we're here. So some tools to start out with, and this is definitely not everything that we're gonna have here today. We've got our blow off duster. We've got just some canned air. And then we've got our regular duster that's not canned air, just in case we don't necessarily, there's obviously gonna be some things we can blow out that, you know, don't require a more fine tip like canned air. So set that aside. We've got safety equipment. Obviously we've got our gloves and our glasses, and then we've got 2 microfiber cloths, and the most important thing of all, coffee. And you guys are probably looking at this going, why did you get coffee from McDonald's? Well, I had to go to Harbor Freight and get some flashlights so I could actually see to do this morning, and McDonald's was on the way and I hadn't had coffee yet. So that's why. Good enough reason. Also, hot take, McDonald's coffee better than Starbucks coffee. So stay tuned for the removal of the glass. I'll try to get you guys the best shot I can. I do have my hat down here that I'm gonna wear to try to give you guys the best perspective on the tempered glass removal. Okay guys, one thing I did forget to mention that you're definitely gonna need during this process is a bowl in which to put your, sorry, I gotta adjust the pitch on this a little bit. There we go. Is a bowl in which to put your glass pieces. All right. Now, one other thing I want to say while we're doing this is the audio may go completely out, and you may start listening to tunes. And the reason is a lot of this process is going to be just simply me cleaning this computer up. And so this room being as echoey as it is, I don't really want a whole lot of echo sound for you guys to have to listen to, so I'm probably just gonna cut it down to the point where you don't have to listen to the echoes of the blower and the cleanup and this and that and the other thing. But yeah, you'll get the first reaction at least here on camera, and then the rest of it we may dub audio. Not sure. I'm gonna go ahead and put safety gloves on now. And then we're gonna dump this out on the table. And when I say dump it out, I literally mean dump it out. So, for those of you who do, you can hear the glass already. For those of you who don't watch my videos, we're already gonna, man, I think just dumping it out is gonna get us glass everywhere. Let's see here. We gotta do it though. It's like the only way. All right, here goes nothing. Dumping now. All right, pull those handles out. And this does not look good, guys. Not at all. And in fact, it seems like there might have been glass in the box and I just dumped all the glass from the box onto the table. Yeah, you can see it already. Holy crap. Let's see. Yeah, wow. All right, well, we gotta start somewhere. So what I'm gonna try and do here is actually direct all this glass that's in here back into the case. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want it all over right now before I even have a chance to get the cover off. So you can see the shattered glass there. You can see that it's definitely shattered. Thank you, iBuyPower, or actually thank you to the shipper. FedEx. That's not really too much of a surprise. FedEx manhandles things all the time. All right, so as I said, we're gonna try and shoot for keeping all the glass localized to the tablecloth and localized to the computer, and as a result, I'm gonna make sure that door stays closed so that way my puppy doesn't come in here. She's not a puppy, she's a Newfoundland, but she's my puppy. And I don't want her little tootsies to get, or her big tootsies to get glass all over.
All right, we're at a point right now where I'm just going to start voicing over a little bit of this. I do want to apologize for the heavy breathing that you hear during this whole process. The reason that you hear the heavy breathing is because my allergies are kicking up a little bit. I think I need to change my filter in my CPAP machine too, and then also haven't changed our furnace filter for a while. So that being said, you're going to hear a lot of and I'm sorry about that, guys. I really am, because it's not pleasant to listen to, but I'm going to turn it down a little bit, and the camera does start to die at one point, so you don't hear it as much, but it's a lot of mouth breathing, so I'm sorry.
Very fine pieces. We're gonna take this, put it back in the box. The reason we're putting it back in the box is because we're gonna deal with it later, not right now. Okay, we've got this bit right here, which I have no idea what it's supposed to be, or what it's supposed to be wrapping. But we'll put that in there. Please read before turning on your system. Yeah, I think we got bigger problems, iBuyPower. More like I buy garbage. I think the biggest problem you guys face is getting a reliable shipper. All right, I'm gonna dump this down into the bowl here. Now the foam packaging is actually a great thing to have, I think, personally. Because all they have to do is break some kind of seal and the foam packaging just starts to expand. But you can see here, just by looking inside this computer, that this glass has really permeated pretty much everything. We've got our liquid cooler up top that's just covered in more glass. We've got our fans on the side covered in glass. We've got little shards of glass on the SSD. We've got, it's probably inside the graphics card as well. So these are all things we have to get out in order for this computer to work. Now, full disclosure, I will tell you, this customer did get the computer fully refunded and got a second computer at no cost to them as a result of this, well, we'll just call it incident. So this is going to basically just be a free second build once it's all said and done. So I'm not sure what this case manufacturer actually is, if it's actually an iBuyPower case, or if it's some other manufacturer that makes the case. But the customer was curious about getting a new case. So I'm not gonna sit here and just keep gabbing. We're gonna start moving some glass, huh? What do you think of that? Let's dump it out onto the table here. We're gonna just pull these off. Pull this off. This is our dust filter for the computer. But just gonna love tap the back here. here's the main reason why I did this in here. Obviously, there's still a lot of glass inside there, but I don't want to keep this PC on top of what we have gotten out of it so far. So the tablecloth will just shake all that glass down that direction. And then now we've got a clean workspace. Cleanish workspace. Cleaner than before. Okay. Now we're gonna lay this back down on its side. And you can obviously tell that there's a ton of glass in it still. Most of the glass went down into the power supply basement here. So we are gonna have to pull the power supply in order to get the rest of the tempered glass out of there. And then what I intend on doing is pulling the power supply and everything, and then actually taking a shot back into this guy to get it going a little better. But to get started with, to give you guys the best possible view, I have picked up a couple of lights that I thought might be beneficial to our progress here. And mostly because this room has terrible lighting, but also because I thought you guys might want to see what's going on. So what I'm gonna do to start out with, I gotta go get my screwdriver from downstairs, basically hauling all of my tools from downstairs up to here so that we can actually, get working on this thing. But in order to actually get this thoroughly cleaned, what I have to really do is pull this graphics card and then start working my way around everything, kind of with the canned air, blow the glass out of the spots here. PCIe slot right there is going to be a real big thing, but I'm really worried about what's gotten down into the GPU itself. So that's where we're going to get started. All right, guys, back here again. We're gonna start by pulling out this GPU. All right, let's just try to dump this out. Oh gosh, I guess suspicion's confirmed about that, huh? Definitely no question about glass in that graphics card. But if I go to open up the graphics card and actually remove all the glass, it voids the warranty. So that's another thing we have to deal with. So I pretty much have my hands tied to, hey, this is what I have to do to get all the glass out. It's basically shake and tap. And you can still see occasionally glass shards coming out. No more rattle in there, which is good. Okay, so I'm gonna say the graphics card is relatively clean at this point. We're gonna set it aside, okay? Next is gonna have to be pulling all of the power supply cables off of the board and then working our way from the basement of the computer up into the actual board area. And then I really want to focus after that up here on where they've put the liquid cooler, the actual radiator for the liquid cooler. So we're gonna start by pulling that 24-pin power connector And this is all a little more challenging with these big gloves on, but come on. There we go. Okay, that should be all of our power supply connectors inside the actual main part of the case. Thank you for being a dramatic flashlight. All right, so next part we're gonna work on here is just this pulling the power supply, like I said. So I'm gonna scoot the vacuum and stuff off of my chair onto this chair. Quick sip of coffee, and then back to work. This is really very disappointing. And imagine spending like $2,500 on a brand new PC build, only to have it arrive like this. Then have to pay somebody to clean it up. One thing that I'm not too terribly fond of is the fact that this power supply has glass shards all inside of it, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it, unfortunately. I can try to vacuum it out, but you can see, if you look really closely, glass inside the power supply. All right. It's another tough thing too when you're wearing safety gloves, which I still recommend doing regardless of how it feels. Because you can see how much glass there is here. The breadth of the glass is crazy. One thing that sucks about it is you can't really tell when the screws are in your hand or not. So I'm going to go ahead and shove that in that direction. And then we have to pull this side cover. And this is probably where you're gonna see the most glass inside the case. It's just gonna be in this basement and on this back panel here. And again, we try to do it this way because of the fact that we wanna make sure everything that we have here stays in one area and not all over the place. All right. Pat out the side panel here. Yeah, whatever. It's just that side panel won't be breaking anytime soon, so let's see. Oh, goodness. You know, it's funny, I have two lights on in here and they both just, neither one of them are really doing that great of a job. And I don't mean the flashlights. The flashlights are the only thing really keeping me going with this. My lights in my office are just way better. And if you're wondering where I got these sweet flashlights, I got them at Harbor Freight. Let's see. Oh, I didn't bring cutters with me for zip strips, of course. But, you know, everybody has to zip strip everything together. I think my honest opinion on zip strips is if you don't have a crazy amount of LED cables, not really a good reason to have so many I'll stop calling them zip strips. I also realize that me calling them zip strips infuriates people. I call them zip ties. See if I can dislodge this power supply here. Come on, guys. So the power supply is not modular, so I have to remove the whole thing. So I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Man, the things you take for granted when you're working in your own workspace. All right, start pulling these zip strips out of here. And pretty much everything I put up on the box up there is gonna go in the trash, except for the magnetic dust filters, which we just need to clean out really thoroughly later. Seriously? One thing I will tell you is don't ever do this, what I am about to do here, at home, okay? Never, ever, 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 okay? Unless you are a trained professional, do not do this at home. This is dangerous. Take this to a trained professional. Okay, I got the fan off of the power supply. Now the reason I decided to do this is because this is a good power supply. This is a Light-On power supply, and if you don't know anything about power supplies, Light-On has been making power supplies since before I was born. And that's a long time. So basically, Light-On has made power supplies for Dell computers, HPs, all kinds of stuff for years and years and years. And so typically I tell people, don't ever crack open your power supply. And why would I tell you that? Well, because there's a lot of dangerous stuff inside of a power supply. A lot of ways you can get shocked and hurt yourself just by simply opening it or accidentally touching the wrong thing. So, but today, I'm here and I'm a professional, so this is okay, right? So we've got it open. All right, guys, apparently the battery sucks on my little camera that clips into the big station here. So I wasn't able to keep the recording going, just randomly decided to stop. So instead of giving you that first person perspective now, you're just gonna have to see it this way, unfortunately, and I'm sorry for that. But again, like I said, if you're a professional, have at it. If you've never touched one of these before, or cracked it open, don't do it. Be safe. and just don't touch anything inside. What's crazy, guys, is that there's actually nothing visible from the inside. There's no sheen, no shine, no nothing. But when you look at the power supply itself, it looks perfectly clean, brand spanking new, and like there's no problems, but you can still hear glass rattling around in there. So more than likely what's happened is that there's glass now underneath of the board that controls all these different power components. And that is one area where I am not going to touch anything inside because I don't want to get shocked or anything like that. This is my stopping point for this power supply. So I'll shake it and I'll slap it and I'll spank it. Until we get no rattles. But unfortunately, it might not all be salvageable. And that's part of the risk you take in trying to save all the pieces of your computer. So now that I've got this part done, what I'm going to do is slap this cover back on this power supply. Again, I'm going to take this tablecloth, kind of shake everything that way, so I still have a semi-clean work surface. And then we'll just hook it all back up. Luckily, glass is not conductive, so in theory this should work just fine, as long as the huge chunks are out of it. This is where it gets a little harder for me to handle because the screws are so tiny for the power supply. Okay, power supply is clean and clear, so I'm going to put that over with the graphics card. Next step is going to be vacuuming out the basement of this thing, which is probably going to be the biggest challenge here. So basically what that means is everything down in this area down here, you can see all these glass shards, is all got to come out and it's got to go somewhere. So picking it up by hand is not really effective.
Well, at this point, we are basically just starting to suck all the glass out the bottom. So, nothing super crazy, just trying to get the shark vac in there, and it doesn't reach really well back in that where the fans are. So, I mean, I end up having to tip it and push all the glass towards the back, but it's pretty satisfying to actually get this all cleaned up and then get it working. It's a huge mess to begin with, but definitely can't complain. I'm sure this is not very exciting to listen to a vacuum suck things up. Believe it or not, guys, that's actually at 200% speed. I could have gone faster with it, just for some reason decided 200% was the mark, because I want you to be able to see what I'm dealing with and also have the same satisfaction that I had in cleaning it out. Tip it back. We should tap the front. And basically what I do is I'll tap the front repeatedly to work some of that towards the back of the case. I work all of it towards the back of the case, so I don't want to see any more glass shards coming out of the front. And then we should be able to start vacuuming that out again. There's some tricky ones that get stuck in certain places. You just got to be careful and watchful of where those are. Like up towards the front there, where that little lip is. Or not towards the front, but on the other side where the lip is. Try to get your canned air in there. It just doesn't work. Not the right application for it.
Well, everybody, there comes a point at which canned air is not effective, and that's pretty much why I own this blower, is because canned air just doesn't do the trick after a while. So really what you got to do is get down in here and get it to a point where you can actually see everything. The canned air will get cold and freeze up on you if you have to tilt it at an angle. But for a job like this, you don't really have much of a choice. You have to tilt everything at an angle. So, kind of blow everything towards the back of the case here. That way we can get it all. And realistically, there's not really a way to remove this shroud here. Some builds there is, this particular one, there's not. And the reason that there's not is because, well, this is a cheap iBuyPower case. So there's not really going to be a way for us to get absolutely everything. Do the best with what we've got and what we've been given. So. Alright guys, we're going to take a brief break here just so I can clean up the workspace a little bit, and then what we're going to do is flip the computer around and start working on that front side and see what else we can get out of here. But I want to get all this glass kind of pushed at least away from the computer so we're not just sucking all this glass back up into the case while we're trying to get everything out of it.
A few moments later.
Alright guys, so one of the hardest parts about this whole thing has been that this computer has been at just about every angle inside this box at this point. during its shipping process. So we don't really know if there's glass inside the radiator or not, but I'm gonna start by blowing down from the top to see if there is any glass. We'll just dislodge it and send it south. In moving this though, I didn't hear nearly the plastic rattle or the glass rattle that I did when we first got it out of the box here. So we're making progress, and I think we're nearing the end here.
And I'm thinking correctly, because in looking at this video, there's just a couple of shards that pop out after this, but really nothing too crazy. Blowing down from the top anyway, nothing too crazy. Blowing off the board, on the other hand, you saw that right there. There were like 5 or 6 shards that just blew down. So it's good that we did this. It's good that we came back in and did the front part of the computer. I know the lion's share of the glass was in the basement of the PC, but this part still has glass shards, and this is the part that we need to be the most careful about, because we don't want anything to be stuck in PCIe slots, RAM slots, fans, places where they can get stuck and just cause problems or lose connectivity.
All right, so you probably saw as I was blowing in there, a lot of stuff going down into the power supply basement that was just kind of hanging out on the board. So what I'm gonna do now, we're gonna tip this over, tap the board from the backside. If anything falls down into the power supply basement, amazing, that's exactly what we want. Because then all we have to do realistically is blow out the rest of the power supply basement. Then we'll dip it all this way, towards the back. Just kind of start letting it fall out. Shake it out of there. All right. Luckily, this board that we have in this PC is a little cheaper, so if anything does go wrong with it, it's not like it's the end of the world. It's just an ASRock board.
Yeah, I'm gonna say don't bother listening to this part, because this is just me rambling senselessly for some reason about ASRock boards and trying to basically just communicate that they're cheap pieces of junk. But is what it is. I mean, y'all know my opinion already, so.
So as you can probably hear, there's not much rattling, if any, left in this case. You can see there's still some glass shards here in this dust filter where the power supply goes down here. Like I said, we'll cover that power supply basement again, but I'm fairly confident we got just about everything out of here. I say that, of course, and then a piece of glass falls down. So we're gonna be thorough and going down. Well, as I said, these little pieces of glass I like to hide everywhere, so it's a little tough to get them all out. But if you do, then you do. All right, perfect. Well, I'm going to take the vacuum over this one more time over the power supply basement, and then we'll go into the front part of the case with the vacuum, just to be 100% sure that we've gotten everything that we need to. And one more time, I'm going to tip all the glass that way, to make sure that everything's out of it. All right. Now we've got the computer back on the table now. Just slap out this top dust cover real quick. Any glass living in there, it'll be out. Looks pretty clean though when I initially looked at it, so I wasn't too concerned about that. We'll flip this around and get you guys back on a good view here. All right, guys, you may or may not be able to see it, but there are a couple of trapped shards. I don't really worry about them going down into the computer itself because overall this computer looks really freaking clean at this point. And they're not coming out with a vacuum or a blower, so the chances of airflow dislodging these two pieces is pretty minimal. But there is a piece right there that's stuck, and you can't really see with the blind eye, but maybe if I shine the camera over, or the flashlight, you can see right there. And then the other piece is stuck right there. And again, not really something you can see. I guess you can see that one with the naked eye, but yeah, those need to come out. But I'm not super worried about them getting into the computer in places where it could potentially do damage. It looks like overall the computer itself is cleaned out really well. So what I'm going to do at this point is take the plastic, the remaining plastic off of this. We're going to do a quick like toothbrush. We're going to go over it with a toothbrush and pull out any teeny tiny glass shards, and then this will be good to go for the customer. We're not seeing any real glimmers or shiny things or bits or pieces or anything anywhere else in the machine. Tempered glass, really, when you have a side panel like this that shatters, it goes everywhere, and it's really inconvenient and really terrible, but it's also not the end of the world. A computer can still be used even afterwards. So we're gonna get this thing put back together, and we'll see if we can get it to post afterwards. All right, everybody, camera's basically dead, but I wanted to show you that it's posting successfully. We're about to boot into Windows here. There we go. We can see our ASRock board is showing there. And we're loading up the Windows 11 install. So if you liked this content, please smash that like button down below. This one was a ton of work, but well worth it, because somebody gets to enjoy a gaming PC with 32 gigs of RAM and 5070 Ti at basically no cost, because the shattered side panel, minus, you know, what I charge to actually do the work. But that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good rest of your day.